Hello everyone. How do you feel about Souls-likes? I love them. And the latest, most comprehensive entry, Elden Ring, is probably one of the best games I've played in a long time. So, I've decided to hop on the challenge train and do a bit of a challenge myself. But of course, all challenges, or most challenges, are already done. So, how do I make this game more interesting? I decided I would do a first weapon challenge. What does this mean? It means that I won't wear anything and I won't use any weapons, and I'll try my best to fight everything with just my fists. I imagine it's going to be very, very painful until I manage to get my first weapon. And the rules are simple. I can only wear the first piece of armor that drops from an enemy, and I can only use the first weapon that drops from an enemy. I cannot collect them from chests, I cannot find them on corpses. They have to be dropped by an enemy, which means I'm going to spend a lot of time punching enemies with bloodied fists trying to overcome this challenge. It's one of those challenges that'll probably be very difficult to do at the start and very time consuming, but will get easier as I find my weapon. What I find interesting about this challenge is that I will have to adapt my playstyle based on what is dropped and, of course, distribute my stats accordingly. So, let's begin. First, let's create a character. I'm not going to spend a lot of time creating a character. I'm just going to use one of my templates. And down we go. Running naked, weaponless. I'm already feeling stupid doing this. I hope backstabs are going to do a lot of damage. No, they don't. 10 damage. It's not a lot, but it seems like it's serviceable for this kind of enemy. I just hope I don't get to fight any bosses with my fists, because that would be really painful. Now, I know these types of enemies have the possibility of dropping the swords that they're carrying, but I also know that this is not going to happen in the tutorial. I'm hoping to meet some of these outside eventually, and hoping to get one of these longswords. I really like this weapon, it has a good reach and a pretty decent moveset. This is where I started to see that I will have to fight different types of enemies, and a lot of them have significantly more health than the common undead that I fought at the beginning. I know what you're thinking, this isn't really a boss, it's just a slightly buffed up version of the Soldiers of Godric with a gigantic health bar, but that's okay, it counts as a boss, it's after a fog war, it's for a tutorial, which means it's going to have a slightly more difficult moveset to deal with, and of course significantly more health, which I have to punch through. So this is going to be an indication of what kind of pain and torment that I'm expected to see. Of course, dealing with this kind of thing requires a ton of patience and also not a lot of room for mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes while playing these games, but eventually I get the stuff done. I died a lot of times to the Soldier of Godric because I got too greedy, I wanted to get it out of the way very quickly. Punching deals 1, 2, maximum 3 damage, backstabbing doesn't do a lot. The most damage I get from punching is chain punching with my offhand, and that leads to giving a lot of openings for giant swings that take most of my health away. So the lesson I learned while fighting Soldier of Godric was that I needed to be patient. I can't just try to get one last hit at the cost of getting hit and potentially getting killed. That would only mean I'd have to start again and end up losing more time than I intended. It took time, yes, but eventually the Soldier of Godric was dead. I considered attacking the tree sentinel. This was one of my first thoughts when I started this challenge. I thought to myself, hey, how little damage can I possibly do? I'll just go to the tree sentinel first thing. It's right at the start. I'll be patient, I'll dodge a lot, and eventually I'll kill the guy. And I might get his awesome weapon, because boss weapons are drop weapons. And what was the rule? We are allowed to use drop weapons. But after seeing how much I suffered at the hands of Soldier of Godric, I decided not to do that at all. And so we continue to find our fortune elsewhere. But it wasn't really working out. In my hubris, I thought I'd be super lucky and I'd get something from the first 5 set of enemies. No, it wasn't happening. I killed and it just didn't drop. I wasn't getting anything. I felt some relief after I found Melina at the second site of grace. It was important that I spend the souls that I gathered just by punching so that I could increase my health and survive a little bit more. I couldn't find anything from the Soldiers of Godric, so I wanted to find a group of undead that I could kill. Well, I decided to cross the bridge. Of course, being the idiot that I am, I was crossing the bridge at night. And who did I forget? Yep, it's the Night Cavalry. Of course I knew I had no chance against this guy, so I wasn't going to waste time fighting him. I don't know why I even tried to run around the guy so much, but in the end, my brains kicked in. Oh wait, that sounded violent. But in the end, I got smarter and went directly back to the bonfire, so I could rest, pass the time, and go over the bridge without any interruptions. Across the bridge, I came across one of my greatest obstacles, grouped enemies. I thought I'd find these guys one by one and take them out, but they came in groups, and this was a very difficult fight. I tried to maybe run away and see if any of them would lose their aggro, so I could get them one by one, but nah, they were a little too stubborn. I eventually killed them, but I ended up losing a lot of time doing this. So I went back to another location where I knew there were weaker enemies, and a cave. A very easy cave for a normal player. I thought maybe the boss in there wouldn't have a lot of health, and I could patiently kill that boss like I killed the Soldier of Godric. After all, this was no tree sentinel. It was just a beast. All I needed to do was dodge properly, and over time I could get him down and maybe he would drop something useful. Now, at this point, I have to explain. I don't have infinite experience with these games. I have not memorized what enemies drop what items. I don't remember which bosses drop what kind of loot. I don't remember where the enemies even are. I don't really pay attention to that kind of thing. A sword, my kingdom for a sword. So I went into the cave, and guess what I found? My greatest weakness, groups of enemies. So after a few failed attempts, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna play this like a normal Dark Souls player and run through them. Oh, and when I say normal Dark Souls player, I don't mean a Dark Souls 2 player. If you do this in Dark Souls 2, you're dead. And it was like this I faced off against the Beastman of Azula. At the start of the fight, I was confident. He didn't do a lot of damage, not more than Soldier of Godric, so I had a chance. I just needed to be careful. And then I punched him. And the way that health bar moved, Oh my goodness. It seemed doable again, but I knew it was going to take a long time. You have to understand something about Elden Ring. The bosses here, even the little ones, are overtuned. And when I say overtuned, I'm talking about their movesets. Most of the fights in Elden Ring is 80% dodging an enemy's attack to find an opening and 20% landing in a few blows. So that significantly increases the fighting time of a boss. And when you're landing blows with just your fists, it becomes a problem. So the fight against the Beastman ended very predictably. I quickly ran away from there and decided, yeah, I think I'll continue killing minor enemies and see if they drop anything. I ended up going back across the bridge again to fight some more undead to see if they dropped the longsword that I was eyeing. At this point, I'm looking at these enemies and I'm seeing their weapons and I'm deciding, yeah, I want that weapon. But we all know things rarely go according to plan. And that is exactly how it went. I was casually fighting this caster undead with no thought whatsoever. It was just an enemy. I wanted some runes. I wanted to get him out of the way because he was annoying me. And then it happened. He dropped a glintstone staff. Now, I was first disappointed because, it's not a weapon. I'm going to need a lot of mana to use this properly. I'm going to need spells. How am I going to bonk someone on the head with this? Or maybe I can bonk someone on the head with this. I would need to try. But it was not a sword. A sword you can swing as long as you have stamina. You don't need mana except for maybe its weapon skill. But when it comes to a staff, it's so much more work. Where do I find the spell? Who's gonna sell it to me? I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, now I know, of course, after having done this, and I'm sure those of you who are watching who've already played this game also know where I can buy spells. But me, at this point, I'm very confused. What is this thing in my hand? What do I do with it? Do I stick it up someone's butt? What do I do? It was doing the same damage as my fists. I had something totally useless. And I had to stick with it. So I went back to using my fists because, hey, those are the default weapons that we can still use. But I would need to find a spell very quickly. At some point I remembered there was a sorceress across the bridge. I found where she was, and to my dismay, she was guarded by Mad Pumpkinhead, which at this point counts as a boss. Oh, no. I was not gonna reach her. Not today. Not in this state. So I had to think of something else. I had to remember, where do I get spells? I was sure there was a place to buy them from. Now, one of my favorite weapons to use in Elden Ring is the Grave Sight. Because I love bleed. And that weapon has a really cool moveset and does really good damage. It's one of my favorite weapons. And I remember farming for it a lot in the graveyard behind the castle. I thought of that. I thought, I wish I had that weapon with me. And then I remembered, wait a minute, there's a church near that castle. And there was this guy there who wanted something from the academy. I was hoping that guy was a vendor that would sell sorceries. So I immediately hopped on torrents and made my way to that church. And there he was, Thops, sitting there waiting for me. So I bought one of the most basic sorceries that he has, and one that I could afford at the time. And that was the Glintstone Pebble. Now it was time to put it to use. Yeah, now we're talking. Glintstone Pebble killed a soldier of Godric in 2 or 3 hits. That was significantly more damage than what I was doing before. Now I had power. I was feeling ready. I thought I could do this. Now, I didn't mention this at the start of the video, but we do have a goal. Naturally, I'm not going to play the entire game like this, but I am going to fight and defeat a boss. That is my goal. That is my intention. Margit the Fell Omen is our target. If I can defeat that boss with the first weapon I find at the start of the game, then I would have a chance with the rest of the game. But before I went anywhere, I wanted to spend some time killing these soldiers of Godric, hoping they would at least drop some pieces of armor that I could wear to the fight. I wanted to try my hand at one of the bosses that killed me earlier, the Beastman. Glintstone Pebble, my love. This guy was melting, and I had enough mana to last the whole fight. And eventually he went down. I was hoping to see what he would drop because I was curious. I wanted to see what I missed, and thankfully I didn't miss much. He just dropped a talisman. After the cave, I went back outside and farmed a little bit more for my gear, and headed directly to the sorceress to kill the Mad Pumpkin Head, because I wanted to see what other spells were available to me. It was there I bought the second skill that comes when you start a game with a staff, the Glintstone Arc. This was going to be very useful when killing groups of enemies. It would help me farm runes faster and level up faster, and if needed, get me enough currency to buy new spells. With my 2 spells and my Glintstone staff, I headed directly to Margit to see how things would go.
Foul tarnished, in search of the Elden Ring, emboldened by the flame of ambition. Extinguish thy flame. Let it be Margit the Fell.
I was doing a lot of damage. It almost seemed like I would have enough mana to get through it. But his moveset kills me. In these games, I never get out of a fight unscathed. I always get hit, and he hit me too many times. I burned through my flasks really fast. And at some point I thought to myself, oh my goodness, Why is this so painful? I've gotten used to fighting this guy, dodging his moves, getting up close and swinging a weapon, and that would for the most part work, but now I was stuck with trying to maintain my distance and cast spells. Of course, maintaining distance meant that he was more prone to use some skills over others, and those daggers, those damn flying daggers, I always get caught. So I gave it a few tries, and it wasn't going well. I was getting more frustrated. I know I can do this. Anybody who's watching right now would probably think, dude, this is easy. You got spells that deal a lot of damage. Just get good, dodge. So I decided to temporarily retreat to see if I could perhaps buy a different spell that would help me even better. So after dying over and over and over again, I decided I would eventually go back to the sorceress to see if I can find another spell. But before that, I wanted to explore my possibilities. I wanted to see how I would fare against some other boss enemies. So the first thing I did, I went to the Flying Dragon Agheel. This I found to be a significantly easier fight, surprisingly. All I needed to do was properly ride my horse, anticipate his attacks, dodge them. Oh, the flame breath has the widest range, so you need to be pretty quick on your feet. And just cast my glintstone pebble until he dies. And that is exactly what happened. He died. I wanted to test my skills even further. You see, after killing the dragon, one tends to get a little overconfident. So I went to the jail. And what I found there, my friends, was pure terror. Now, the Bloodhound Knight posed a very different challenge. Yeah, sure, the Glintstone Pebble was doing a lot of damage, but this guy was fast. He could dodge my pebbles. And when he didn't dodge, he would be coming at me, swinging his blade. It deals a lot of damage. This is significantly more doable than Margit, but again, it costs a lot to make a mistake in this game. And I make a lot of mistakes. So I fought him a few times and decided, nope, I'm not gonna deal with this. I'm wasting too much mana trying to hit him and getting hit in return. This is no good. I need something else, something better. So I followed my initial plan and went back to the sorceress. Carrion Slicer ended up being one of the best early game spells that I've ever used. I don't play the sorcery build a lot, and I don't know the spells much, but I found this spell very interesting. It ended up being an actual sword that was using a sword moveset. I fucking loved it. Sure, every swing was burning through my mana, but it didn't cost a lot of mana. And I was thinking, if there are ways in the game to regenerate mana and spend less on your abilities, this weapon could actually carry me to the end. And even now, I call it a weapon because of the way it feels, but it's actually a spell. From this point on, the end would arrive pretty quickly. First, I went to the Bloodhound Knight. I wanted some revenge. So yeah, I lost maybe once or twice again, but after I got used to his moveset, piece of cake. After deciding to play more aggressively, I got him without being hit a single time. And now I was ready. I could go back up to the castle and face Margit the Fell Omen, and put an end to this challenge once and for all. Naturally, it wasn't an easy fight. I still had to dodge properly. But now I could play much more aggressively, which means I'd have more opportunities to hit him and dodge him.
Well, thou art of passing skill. Warrior blood must truly run in thy veins. Tarnished.
And just like that, he was down. Ladies and gentlemen, the challenge of using the first weapon you ever find is now complete. And I learned a lot during this challenge. I think everybody should do challenges. You get to learn an aspect of the game you never even thought of before. I never imagined a spell like this could be so efficient. This actually created in me the desire to focus more on spellcaster builds. There are a lot of spells out there, and Carrion Slicer is one of them, and I'm sure there are crazier spells to use. So yeah, it was a learning experience, and it was a lot of fun actually, despite all the pain and torment I felt at the start. The eventual outcome was very satisfying. I got to see that I could adapt to the situation quickly, and I got to learn a different aspect of the game that I hadn't known before. If you watched until the end, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe, and leave a comment about what you think of this challenge, and if you'd like to maybe try it yourself. But for now, have a lovely day and goodbye.